have always believed that beauty is a quiet power. It isn't just in the face but in the way you carry yourself, in the confidence that comes from knowing who you are. At 49, I had that confidence, the kind that made people doubt my age. Working in interior design only sharpened that edge. Refined tastes, impeccable style, an eye for what makes things and people alluring. But no one had ever admired me the way my son Alan once did. For 23 years, I had been the center of his world. He would come to me with his victories and defeats, with stories of college, of his friends, of life. He trusted my judgment, valued my thoughts above all others. And then Amanda arrived. She was lovely, there was no denying it. Tall, graceful, with a kind of effortless charm that made young men stumble over their words. She danced. She practiced yoga. She had a lightness to her that reminded me of the girl I once was. And Alan was enthralled. For the first time, he wasn't calling to tell me about his day. He was telling me about hers. I would ask about his classes, and he would answer with a tangent about how Amanda had taught him something about balance, about breath, about movement. "She's incredible, Mom," he told me one afternoon, his voice brimming with a kind of admiration he once reserved only for me. "She's so graceful, like she understands her body better than anyone I've ever met." I had smiled, feigned my approval. "She sounds wonderful." "She is." There was again that glow, that spark. The kind I had seen in his eyes when he was younger, and I had all the answers. Now Amanda had them. I had never been jealous of another woman in my life. Not of coworkers, not of friends. But this was different. So I did something I had never done before. I asked Amanda for a yoga lesson. "Are you sure?" she asked, her wide eyes genuinely surprised. "Why not?" I had replied with a practiced ease. "It looks like a wonderful way to stay fit." She beamed at the idea. "You'll love it. We can do it at your place. I'll bring my mat." I nodded, as if I hadn't already planned everything to unfold exactly that way. The afternoon was perfect. Warm, with a breeze that carried the scent of jasmine from the garden. The pool shimmered under the sun, inviting, cool. Alan had invited his best friend Ron over, and the two of them sat on the poolside chairs, laughing about something that felt distant to me now. Amanda unrolled her mat beside mine, her lithe frame effortlessly settling into position. "This one is a great way to open up your chest," she said, arching gracefully into a backbend. I mimicked her movement, feeling the satisfying pull of my muscles stretching. It had been years since I'd pushed my body like this, and yet as I moved, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, power. Ron's voice cut through the quiet. "Wow, Victoria, you're really good at this." I glanced up, meeting his gaze. He was watching me with something I recognized instantly. Appreciation. The same way he had looked at Amanda earlier. Even Alan turned to look, his expression shifting slightly. "She's always been athletic," Alan said, his voice casual but firm. "Mom's in better shape than most people our age." I knew what he meant, that I wasn't like other mothers, that I had never let time define me. And yet, hearing it now, with Amanda beside me, I let the words linger. "She's more like a friend than a mom," Alan added, looking at Ron. "Right." I turned away before anyone could see the way my lips curved slightly upward. I had been afraid I was losing my place in his world. But in that moment I realized something important. I was still at the center. Amanda was wonderful. She was young, beautiful, graceful. But I was Victoria, and that still meant something. I had never truly considered myself the jealous type. But jealousy, I was beginning to realize, was not always loud. It was not always sharp words or cold shoulders. Sometimes it was soft, lingering. A slow, simmering awareness that something once solely yours had been quietly taken away. I had always been Alan's first thought. His first call when something good happened. His first comfort when things went wrong. His first. And now it was Amanda. But today I had won something back. As I held my yoga pose longer than Amanda, as I flexed with the kind of discipline that only years of knowing my body could grant me, I saw the way Ron noticed. The way Alan did. And even the way Amanda, though sweet and unaware of my internal war, glanced at me with something like admiration. "Victoria, you're a natural," Amanda said, reaching for her water bottle. "Seriously, your balance is insane." I smiled, dabbing the light sheen of sweat from my forehead. "I guess I just pick things up quickly." Alan chuckled. "That's an understatement." Ron leaned back on his elbows, still watching me in that way that made my stomach tighten. "I mean, let's be real, Victoria. You could walk into any class and outshine half the people there." Amanda giggled, not catching the weight of his words. "But I did. Caught everything." I stretched my arms above my head, elongating my torso, allowing my movements to be slow and deliberate. I was enjoying this. Enjoying the attention. Alan shifted, grabbing his towel, running it through his damp hair. "She's always been like this," he said. "She doesn't even try, but she's good at everything." Something in his tone made me glance at him. His words were light, but his jaw was tight. A flicker of something unreadable passed through his face before he turned away. And that flicker, it sent a thrill through me. Later that evening, when Amanda had left and Ron had gone home, Alan and I sat outside by the pool. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in streaks of lavender and gold. "I didn't know you were interested in yoga," he said finally, breaking the silence. I turned to him, taking a slow sip of my wine. "I wasn't," I admitted. "Until today." He smirked, shaking his head. "You just wanted to see what all the fuss was about, huh?" I tilted my head, meeting his gaze. "Maybe." His smirk faded slightly, and for the briefest moment, something unspoken settled between us. I had won something today. I didn't know exactly what, but I felt it in the way Alan looked at me now. Like I was still the most important woman in his life. And I had no intention of letting that change. I woke up the next morning with a strange feeling lingering in my chest. It wasn't regret, nor was it guilt. It was something far more elusive, an awareness, a shift in the air, in the balance of things. The night before, Alan had looked at me differently. It wasn't something overt, something obvious, but I had felt it in the way his gaze lingered, the way his voice had softened when he spoke to me. I had spent so many years believing that I would always be the most important woman in his life. And then Amanda had arrived, and for the first time I had felt myself being replaced. But yesterday changed something. I still held a power that I had feared was lost. I was still Victoria. And Alan had noticed. That morning, as I poured my coffee and stepped outside onto the patio, Alan was already waiting by the pool, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when he saw me, his face brightening. "Morning, Mom." I slid into the chair across from him, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," he admitted, setting his phone down. "I was thinking, maybe you could show me some yoga." I lifted a brow, mildly surprised. "I thought Amanda was the yoga expert." He laughed. "She is, but I'd rather learn from you." There was something in the way he said it, something that sent a small thrill through me. Smiled. "All right," I said, leaning back in my chair. "When do you want to do it?" He stretched his arms over his head, his muscles flexing slightly. "How about later this afternoon? I want to see if I can keep up with you." I chuckled, taking a sip of my coffee. "Careful what you wish for." His gaze met mine, playful, challenging. "We'll see." I spent far too long choosing what to wear. It was ridiculous. It was just a simple yoga session. A mother helping her son stretch, guiding him through the basics. But as I stood in front of my closet, running my fingers through the neatly hung activewear, I found myself lingering over certain pieces. The black leggings were safe, practical. But then my eyes landed on something else. The soft pink top that hugged my figure just right, the matching shorts that were just short enough to be comfortable yet flattering. I reached for them before I could change my mind. By the time I stepped outside onto the patio, Alan was already waiting for me. His mat rolled out by the pool. He glanced up when he saw me, and for a brief moment, his expression changed. His eyes swept over me quickly. Too quickly. I pretended not to notice. You ready? Asked, keeping my voice light. He cleared his throat and nodded. Yeah, definitely. We started with the basics, breathing exercises, simple poses. Alan was strong, athletic, but he lacked the flexibility that came with practice. He grunted in frustration as he tried to hold a pose, his muscles trembling slightly. Relax, I instructed, stepping behind him to adjust his posture. You're holding too much tension in your shoulders. He exhaled as I placed my hands lightly on his back, pressing gently. Better? Yes. He nodded, his voice quieter than before. Yeah. We moved through the poses, and with each adjustment, each small correction, I could feel something unspoken lingering between us. I told myself it was nothing, just the natural closeness that came with guiding someone through movement. But then came the stretching. I lay on my stomach, reaching my arms forward, my back arching slightly. This is a great way to stretch your spine, I said. You want to try? Alan nodded, lowering himself beside me. Now, I continued, glancing over at him. One of the best ways to deepen the stretch is with a partner. Here, take my hands. He hesitated for only a moment before reaching for me. His hands wrapped around mine firmly, and as he leaned back, pulling me gently, I felt a rush of something unexpected. The stretch was deep, effective, but my focus wasn't on my muscles. For a second I was aware of everything. The way his grip felt strong yet careful. The warmth of his skin against mine. The sound of his breathing, steady and controlled. When I finally straightened, I turned to look at him, and for a moment neither of us spoke. It was brief, fleeting, but real. And then the moment passed. Good stretch, he asked, his voice casual, but there was something in his eyes. I nodded, ignoring the way my heart was beating faster than it should have been. Good stretch. Later that evening after dinner I was on the couch, scrolling through my tablet, when Alan walked in with a bottle of water. Here, he said, handing it to me. I looked up surprised. What's this for? You forgot to drink water after yoga, he said simply. I reached for the bottle, and as I did, I realized how close he was standing. Right in front of me. I looked up at him, and for the briefest second, something passed between us. A flicker of something. He cleared his throat, stepping back. You should stay hydrated. I exhaled, forcing a small smile. Thanks, Alan. He nodded, walking off toward his room. I sat there for a long time, staring at the unopened bottle of water in my hands, trying to shake the feeling that something had shifted. That maybe, just maybe, I wasn't imagining things. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. There was a certain energy lingering in the air. Something unspoken, something new. As I brushed my hair and adjusted my robe, I thought back to yesterday. The yoga session. The stretching. The way Alan had looked at me. Not just as his mother, not just as someone familiar, but as someone he was suddenly seeing in a new light. I shook the thought away, blaming it on my own heightened emotions. It was nothing. Had to be nothing. But then he knocked on my bedroom door. Mom. I turned from my vanity mirror, my heart skipping slightly at his voice. Come in. Alan stepped inside, dressed in his usual athletic shorts and a fitted t-shirt, his hair still damp from the shower. He looked freshly energized, like he had already spent the morning working out, which wasn't unusual for him. But the way he looked at me, steady, focused, felt different. He leaned against the doorframe, crossing his arms. So, I was thinking. I lifted a brow. That's dangerous. He smirked. Very funny. Then, after a beat, he continued. I was wondering if you could show me more yoga moves. Like really teach me. I know Amanda's great at it, but I like learning from you. The way he said it, so casually yet intentionally, sent a warm hum through me. I smiled, turning to my dresser where I kept my yoga tops neatly folded. All right, but if we're doing this seriously, I should probably wear something comfortable. Alan's gaze flickered to the dresser. What other tops do you have? I glanced at him, surprised. What? I mean, I noticed yesterday that your pink one looked nice, he said, shrugging. Do you have any other colors? I hesitated for only a moment before pulling open the drawer, running my fingers over the soft fabric. I have a lemon one and a black one. Alan stepped closer, his eyes scanning the options. He reached out, barely touching the edge of the black one before looking at me. Wear this one. I let out a small laugh, amused. You're picking my yoga outfit now. He grinned, but there was something else behind it, something playful. Why not? I rolled my eyes but grabbed the black top anyway. As I pulled it over my head, adjusting the fabric, I felt Alan move closer. His hand reached out, and before I could react, he lightly tugged at one of the straps, straightening it against my shoulder. Froze. It was such a simple movement, innocent in theory, but the way he did it, slow, deliberate, felt different. When I turned to face him, his eyes were already on mine, steady, unwavering. For the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. A rush of something I couldn't quite name. Alan's voice was softer when he spoke again. You should wear this one to class with me. I swallowed, keeping my expression light, not wanting to acknowledge the sudden charge in the air. You really like playing personal stylist, don't you? He shrugged. I just think you look good in it. There it was again, that casual offhand comment that felt like it carried more weight than it should have. I turned away, pretending to focus on tying my hair back. All right, I said, forcing a playful tone. But you better keep up this time. Alan chuckled. I'll try. Before he left the room, his fingers brushed against my forearm, just a light, absent-minded touch. But it lingered. And when he was gone, I exhaled, pressing a hand to my chest, feeling the way my heartbeat had quickened. I had no idea what game we had started, but I was starting to enjoy it. After our second yoga session of the day, one that left both of us breathless and sweating under the late afternoon sun, I settled onto the couch, my muscles aching in the best way. Alan walked in a few minutes later, tossing a towel over his shoulder. Want me to help you stretch? I looked up, arching a brow. You're suddenly an expert now. He grinned. I've had a good teacher. I shook my head but lifted my legs onto the couch, letting him kneel beside me. His hands found my calves first, his thumbs pressing in slow, firm strokes, easing the tension from my muscles. I sighed in relief, leaning back against the cushions. You're actually pretty good at this, I murmured. Alan smirked. Yeah. I nodded, closing my eyes, letting myself relax under his touch. He moved up to my thighs, his hands warm against my skin, pressing into the tight muscles with careful precision. It was a simple act, just a son helping his mother with post-yoga recovery. But the air between us felt different. Unspoken. I opened my eyes slightly, watching him. His expression was focused, almost too much so. And then, just as he moved his hands again, I let out a sharp breath, a reaction to the pressure on a particularly sore muscle. Alan froze, his hand still against my leg. His eyes lifted to mine. For a moment, neither of us spoke. And then he smiled, breaking the moment. Ticklish. I laughed, shaking my head. No, just sore. Good, he said, pressing his thumbs in deeper. Then I'm doing it right. I let myself relax again, closing my eyes once more. The moment had passed. But something was still there, lingering in the quiet between us. Something neither of us wanted to name. And maybe we never would. Alan and I never spoke about what had changed between us. We didn't need to. Some things in life don't require definition. They simply are. Like the way the sun rises without being asked, or how the tide kisses the shore in a silent, endless conversation. Yoga became our ritual. Every afternoon we unrolled our mats by the pool, moving in quiet harmony. At first it was about balance and flexibility, about breath and movement. But over time it became something else. Something deeper. a space that belonged only to us. Alan no longer brought up Amanda as often. He was still with her, still making plans, still spending time with her. But when he was home, he was with me. And I was with him. We never named what was happening. We never talked about the shift in the air, the weight in our silences, or the way we looked at each other a second too long. We just let it be. And for now, that was enough. After every yoga session, we stretched together. It became part of the routine, an unspoken agreement. "Your shoulders are tight again," Alan murmured one evening as I sat cross-legged on the couch, rolling my neck. I sighed. "I've been overworking them. Too many planks." Alan smirked, sitting beside me. "Turn around." I did as he asked, and his hands found my shoulders, kneading gently. His touch was firm, precise, warm. I exhaled slowly. "You're getting good at this." He chuckled. "At this rate, I should start charging you." I laughed, tilting my head forward to give him better access. "Put it on my tab." His fingers pressed deeper, working through the tension, and I let myself relax completely. The sounds of the night filled the space around us. The distant hum of crickets, the occasional splash from the pool, the rhythmic whisper of the breeze through the palm trees. Felt peaceful, natural. "You should let yourself slow down more," Alan said softly. "You never do." I smiled, eyes still closed. "You know me too well." He didn't answer right away, and when he finally spoke, his voice was quieter. "Yeah, I do." Some nights after dinner we stayed outside by the pool, wrapped in blankets, sipping tea. Other nights we watched movies together, curled up on the couch like we used to when he was little. It had been years since we spent this much time together. "I missed this," Alan admitted one evening, his voice barely above a whisper. I glanced at him, my mug warm between my fingers. "Missed what?" He hesitated, then met my gaze. I smiled, feeling something soften in my chest. "Me too." We sat in silence for a while, watching the sky turn dark, letting the moment stretch between us like a bridge. He reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. I squeezed back. No words were needed. Some things, after all, are better left unspoken. Time moved forward as it always does. Amanda was still in Alan's life, and I knew eventually things would shift again. He would get married one day, have his own family, his own priorities. I would watch from a distance, smiling, pretending I didn't miss this. But for now we had this moment. For now we had yoga in the afternoons, quiet conversations in the evenings, and the kind of closeness that didn't need a name. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. For now.